Hey, like, share, and subscribe. Right, all right. So SmackDown ended on a hot note, a nice cherry on a shit sandwich that was SmackDown. First things first, I want to tell y'all, I am not always here to lecture. You guys feel free to comment in the comment section. You know, this is an interactive channel. I want to know what you guys think about these things. So before I even get into it, make sure that you guys have your own opinion on this subject. Feel free to disagree with me. Unlike some people we're going to discuss later in this video, we can actually talk about it. And if you think I'm stupid, that's fine. You can just say, Mongo, you're stupid, and then I can say I disagree. I'm very smart, and then we can move on and talk about something else. But that's the first thing. Second thing is I want to talk about this video. We're going to talk about the group, their what they've done so far. And then we're going to talk about some of the reactions I've seen. And then we're going to talk about my theories of where this is going to come from. Because every wrestling show, every episode of a wrestling show is just a new chapter in a story. So everybody who's overreacting or underreacting right now, just know there are more shows ahead. Okay, so let's talk about Retribution. So Retribution debuted in a very, very short segment where they destroyed a power grid or something like that on a Monday Night Raw, which I think was August the 2nd or August the 3rd. It's something like that. It may have been August. I think I'm pretty sure it was August the 2nd. WWE promised, which was kind of silly on their part. If you're going to have an invasion, why would you promise people that the group was going to show up on Raw? That's silly. But they announced that there was going to be a new faction. A new faction was going to show up. On the same episode of Raw that they announced that the Raw Underground deal was happening. So the new faction didn't do anything but destroy a power grid with a Molotov cocktail. I initially was like, "Oh shit, that's Antifa," and that was kind of it. And then people complained that it was not. They didn't do anything. They didn't do enough. There was nothing happening. There were various wrestling journalists who were like, they barely, very, very barely. You gotta talk. Put your pinky up when you talk like a wrestling journalist. They very barely fulfilled their obligation to do the new faction. I mean, it's like they didn't really want to. They were so focused on the dancing girls. That bullshit. Anyway, so SmackDown, there was some things happening throughout the night, not as much as there were on Raw. There was like power outages and everything on Raw. There was not that much of that on SmackDown. There were some microphone problems and the lights flickered a little bit, but not a lot. And then at the end of SmackDown, during the Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville, the really dope thing that they were doing, they immediately cut into this segment where the lights shut out, and then the group attacked. They attacked the production staff. They're running off Corey Graves and Michael Cole, and they're chasing down the cameraman, and they're trying to spray paint the plexiglass, and they got bats. It's like they got invaded by the Lollipop Guild. All these small people just started running around with bats and crowbars and all this type of stuff, right? And it was chaotic, but it was kind of controlled chaos. It was controlled mayhem because there was people banging on the glass still. Like after they came behind the plexiglass to attack PC students, people were still there, So it's not like they beat up some people and then everybody ran away. It was some people were still cheering them on, banging the glass. It's like, shouldn't everybody have cleared out? That would have been the plan, right? So some guy, who I think I know who this was. I might be wrong. I'm probably wrong because I'm almost always wrong about these kind of things. He took the camera, said, "You better clear out of here. We're gonna take over." And he brought out a chainsaw, and he chainsawed the ropes. And I was like, "Oh shit, okay." It was kind of hot. It had some punch to it. I'm glad that they're actually putting some effort into the end of these shows. That's the good stuff. Put some effort into the end of the show. The rest of the show needs some work now. I did not like SmackDown, so we can talk about that later. That's some other issue. So the Lollipop Guild interrupts Raw. They're clad in black. Everybody gets political about it, and our favorite virgin journalist. I'm talking like this dude is such a virgin. You might as well sacrifice him in the pit of a volcano. David Bixenspan. He goes on an absolute tirade about WWE, and I'm going to read some of his tweets because I'm a loser, you know. Because why not? because because why not? Because I like to torture myself. So, Bixen Span, the reason I'm choosing Bixen Span is because I know there's a lot of people who agree with him, and he has a sort of very widely spread article base or readership. People actually read him. I'm blocked by him, by the way, but people have done me the solid of screenshotting his material and sending it to me. But he has a very wide readership. He writes for Deadspin and some other sites, so he's not a small. He barely got any reaction out of some of these things, but I'm only going to read about 3 of them, and I'm going to respond in real time. So one of his tweets, I don't have all of them. It says, "It's almost as if WWE being cool with Black Lives Matter themed gear and the New Day's raised fist salute was to give them cover for when they decided to make a bunch of random wrestlers top heels while cosplaying as a brain-wormed boomer's worst nightmares of Black Lives Matter and Antifa protesters. It's almost as if David Bixenspan doesn't own a TV, which obviously he does own a TV, on some type of device in which you can watch the news. Because if you watch the news, hell, if you just go on Twitter, you can see all the wanton destruction of the last 90 days of people attacking federal courthouses. They got caltrops now, the little spikes that look like jacks that you might have played with as a kid, to bust out the tires of cop cars. They're carjacking trucks. They're assaulting old women. All this type of stuff. Like, are we? Why would that be something that, like, you can't talk about this thing like it's a straw man when people can clearly see it? Like, you can't. And you can't do that. You can't just say, well, oh yeah, you're making this up, man. You're cosplaying as a brain-worn boomer. Like, he's a brain-worn boomer. For starters, do you think Vince came up with this? You think Vince knows what the fuck Antifa and Black Lives Matter is? Vince McMahon doesn't know that. This man doesn't watch TV. This is crazy, man. Like, it's weird. Likely somebody on the writing staff came up with this, and Vince was just like, sounds good. Go for it. I don't care. And just went and did it, and obviously we'll see what the liberal media response to this is, because that's really what I'm interested in. I'm really interested in what the liberal media is going to say. But let's talk. Well, actually, Bixenspan is the liberal media. I'm talking about the mainstream media, the media that actually matters, that poisons people's brains. Bixenspan has a dedicated readership among wrestling fans. Nobody else cares about this fucking guy. As I said before, sports journalists are in the ghetto of journalists. Journalism in itself is a garbage industry, but in the gutter of the journalism industry is sports reporters, and the niggers of the sports reporters are wrestling journalists, because they're not really real journalists. So that's Bixenspan's first tweet. His second tweet, or the second tweet that I was sent: WWE's panic response to failing ratings. They're number 1 on USA, and Raw is number 1 on USA, and NXT is number 3. So WWE's panic response to failing ratings. Again, they're number 1 on USA, and NXT is number 3 on USA. 2 million people watched Raw. 2 million people, give or take, watch Raw. And there's cord cutting and different things like that. Kind of, you might not want to jump the whole ratings of falling. That whole sinking ship shit that Meltzer and all these guys are trying to push. Not exactly the most true thing. I mean, when the most watched television show on TV, it gets only 4 million viewers, we're kind of at a different level of TV here, right? Like, we're talking about Tucker Carlson is the most watched television program in the country. Tucker Carlson always shows fucking Antifa violent footage. So maybe that's why they're doing this. Maybe. But we'll talk about my theories into why this is happening later. But the bigger deal is, Tucker Carlson gets 4 million viewers. Raw gets about half that. And then, a lot of the viewers who are probably watching Tucker Carlson are probably wrestling fans who are interested because it's an election year. People trying to get informed as much as informed as you can get from Tucker Carlson, and that kind of thing. So this whole idea of WWE's failing ratings is like, fuck out of here, dude. This is wrestling journalism has been doing this shit for 20 fucking years with the ratings. They've been talking about this shit for 20 years, and these idiots are always surprised if Vince McMahon just happens to get more money. Like, either you think Fox and USA are stupid as fuck, or you don't know what you as much as you think you do. And none of these people are in the entertainment industry. They're fucking on the cusp of the entertainment industry. They ask questions for a living. That's what they do. They're fucking morons. But let's continue his tweet. WWE's panic response to failing ratings was 1, really bad Fight Club segments. 2, trying to exploit the worst people in the country's fear of social justice movements. So the worst people in the country, their fears. So if you disagree with these people that are attacking federal courthouses, attacking police officers, storming private neighborhoods, when they broke the gates and they had those 2 white people in St. Louis pull guns on them to get them the fuck out of their neighborhood. Those are the worst people in the country. See, this is where Big Span goes off the rails, right? Because you can disagree with somebody and not be an asshole. You can have a wrong. There's nothing illegal about being wrong. You know, you can have a bad opinion, and I've seen this a lot when it comes to the progressive wrestling fan. And I'm sorry if you're a progressive wrestling fan. I'm sorry, but fuck you. A lot of your problems and all of the things that you complain about is bullshit. You know, but let's talk about this while I'm on the subject. Is because I saw recently whenever people get upset, they start talking about crazy stuff, right? So people were upset Daniel Bryan's Planet's champion, or the hippie Bryan was a heel. They thought that he's supposed to be a good guy because he's talking about saving the planet. And Daniel Bryan really feels this. You know, he really feels like this as his real feeling on climate change and all that type of stuff. It's actually still his avatar is like the Earth. So, he's from like Seattle or something like that. So it's really bizarre. Which actually, considering there was some dirt sheet reports, this is just on the side. There was some dirt sheet reports, about a week or 2 ago that Daniel Bryan is actually writing Raw or helping to write Smackdown, not Raw, Smackdown. That Daniel Bryan, the uber leftist progressive from Seattle, is helping to write Smackdown, in which Antifa attacks Smackdown. ... What does Big Span have to say? You think Vince McMahon sat down and wrote this? Come on. Anyway, people thought that Daniel Bryan should have been a babyface. And I said, for starters, not everybody agrees with climate change. Not everybody agrees with that shit, for starters. But secondly, you can disagree without being an asshole. Like, even if people agree with you, Daniel Bryan's approach to the way he pushed his message, which was preachy and judgy and, that kind of thing, people don't like that. And they don't like it whether you're right or wrong. CM Punk wasn't wrong when he started talking about the dangers of drinking and smoking and doing drugs. He wasn't wrong. But he was wrong in trying to be a savior. He was wrong in preaching. You can do those things, and that's the core element that people don't like. If people don't, even if they like your message, they might not like the approach to the message. And that's really what makes a heel, is how does the heel convey his message? Even if the heel is correct in some of the storylines, sometimes the heel should be correct, that I'm a better wrestler than you. Sometimes they are, but they might not like that you said that in the way that you said it. They might not like the way that you treat this person when you say these sorts of things. That's the difference, is the message. How do you convey your message? And Big Span is conveying his message right here in saying that the worst people in the country's fear of social justice movements. What are you talking about, dude? People have eyes. Why are you trying to ignore the reality that people are looking at? And it's not an exploitation shit. It's a fucking true. We don't even know if that's what they're doing yet. So you're jumping to conclusions. That's the first thing. All of us are going to naturally, or at least most people who are, fairly conscious, can actually look and see that, it is kind of an allegory in certain ways. But, again, it's how you approach things. And Big Span can be a progressive, but he's a fucking lunatic. Okay, this type of shit, when you calling people the worst people in the country, like, that's idiocy. That's absolute. Man, that's something else. That's literally, but he didn't stop there. I don't know why he didn't. He just didn't. He says, and he continues, WWE literally thinks their average viewer is a white supremacist. And to which one of his fans said their average viewing age is above 50, so they're probably right. For starters, these people are stupid. They're really stupid. This is a PG program, sir. It is a PG program, sir. WWE is for children. Why would you think? For starters, you don't have to be a white supremacist to disagree with Antifa and Black Lives Matter. For starters, the bulk of Black Lives Matter, especially when you turn on the TV and look at what they're doing, or you scroll through Twitter and see it, is mostly white people. It's mostly white fucking communists and white fucking anarchists hiding behind the banner of Black Lives Matter to destroy public property and kill the jobs of black people. There are tons of black people who are now unemployed because Black Lives Matter and Antifa. There are black people who are dead because of these groups. But you would have to actually care about black people to know this and not sit on your golden throne far away from any real problems, judging what, other people are doing. You need to fuck off. Fucking, oh God, Jesus Christ. Bixenspan is something else, man. He's insane. So let's get into my theories now. What do I think Retribution or whatever, Retribution, yes, that's the name. What do I think Retribution is? So I think that Retribution could be, I got three ideas. My number one idea comes from when the guy grabbed the camera and talked to the camera. There was a black guy talking to the camera. I immediately thought, okay, and I think I said this on on Twitter or something like that, but I'm gonna say it here so people can hear it. I think that these are the Evolve wrestlers that WWE, they lost their jobs. So when WWE bought Evolve, there was a lot of wrestlers that went on the market that did not have jobs. They did hire two of these guys. They hired Anthony Green and Leon Ruff within the last week or so. So maybe that's what this is they're going to have a secret storyline with all of these guys who worked for Evolve and now they don't have a job. And now they're going to blame WWE, and so they're going to take over and invade WWE to mess up the show for ruining Evolve. And I think this is my headcanon. Obviously, I don't have any insider information. So if I was writing it, that's what it would be. It would be Evolve wrestlers, angry that WWE cost them their job, where they had a regular paying gig, even if it wasn't that much. It was better than nothing, and now they don't have anything. And they're going to take it out on NXT. They're going to take it out on WWE. I would personally aim this towards NXT because I think NXT sort of needs the ratings boost, and I think that the Evolve talent needs to start at the bottom, and not to shit on NXT or anything like that, but they are the developmental brand, and I think that Evolve can have a safer and more productive feud with NXT than they can with SmackDown or Raw talent, because once you break out like Jeff Hardy and Sheamus and stuff like that, there's no way those guys are going to do jobs to like Leon Ruff. There's just no way. So that actually is one of the reasons why I think it might not be. That's also why I think it might not be Evolve, is because I think it might want to be people that they can feud with the top stars of WWE. Now, the thing about the Evolve storyline is because much like the Nexus, if you start at the top, then there's no way for you to go but down. And that's a big fall. That's a big problem. You can't, the quicker things burn, the quicker they burn out. It's like barbecuing. You set the fire and you let the fire simmer. That's what you have to do when it comes to a career. You have to let your career simmer. You have to, start at the bottom, work your way up, even if it takes a decade, 10 years or whatever. If you start people at the top, then you're asking for them to burn them out real quick. You're looking at short-term gain. I think that Retribution, if you're doing this right, could last to WrestleMania. Because this is around the time that they pulled out the Nexus in 2009 too, I believe, too. It might have been around a little earlier than this, because I'm not sure when Nexus debuted, but I'm pretty sure it was not so close to SummerSlam. I know they made event at SummerSlam, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't that close to SummerSlam when they debuted, unless I'm wrong. So who knows? my Nexus Part 2 storyline also is my second theory. Now, Ryback and Wade Barrett both claimed that they were contacted by WWE to do a Nexus reunion. And both declined, obviously. I'm pretty sure it's because, COVID and a bunch of other things. But, I didn't think much of it at the time. But maybe they were contacted to try to bring back the Nexus and maybe try to just run it back and do it again. Maybe Nexus Part 2 will actually be better than Part 1. Maybe they actually do it right this time. And that's my second guess. My second guess is PC recruits, people who are already in the Performance Center. Maybe people are connected to the Raw Underground storyline, because there were a lot of small people on Raw Underground. There's a lot of small people running around WWE now. A lot of tiny. It's turning into the real Lollipop Guild around there, man. It's gonna be like, it's gonna be like Max Mini and Hornswoggle on the main event of WrestleMania. So, and my third response is probably gonna be like some type of new organization or an extension of an existing organization. Like we've had over the last couple of weeks, we had Legado del Fantasma, who ended up being Joaquin Wild and Raul Mendoza. They were attacking people in the Full Sail parking lot, and they, you could have maybe it's an extension of that. Maybe it's an extension of Akira Tozawa's ninjas. Like we had a bunch of ninjas pop up at the Performance Center recently. Maybe it's that kind of thing. Maybe or basically what I'm saying is maybe it's this group is attached to another wrestler. And you could have wrestlers, maybe you have, this is the foot soldiers of that group, and then the core members of the group are going to be someone else. So you could have maybe the Forgotten Sons, those guys who ended up losing their push because of Jackson Riker. I believe that was his name, the one that tweeted about Trump and then got his push killed. The political discrimination. Despite the fact that David Bixenspan thinks that WWE is racist, they kind of axed the guy for saying, "Hey, I like Trump." It's kind of stupid. But that could be one thing. It could also be a sort of purge like character. Like some people say they reminded them a lot of Sanity. That maybe you wanted to do that kind of gimmick with it, that it's more like Sanity, or so maybe Killian Dane or somebody like that is involved with this. There's some type of higher power, much like a cult or some type of religious organization, much like maybe it's some bullshit like the WWE's version of the Dark Order. Who knows? So those are kind of like my ideas. And maybe it's like the Dark Order, maybe it's Evolve wrestlers, maybe it's people from Raw Underground. It doesn't have to be some type of political bullshit. It could just, I'm almost certain that it's not going to be political bullshit. I'm almost positive that it's not going to be that, because WWE likely does not want MSNBC and Fox and all these guys talking about their storylines again. Because every time that shit happens, they have to adjust the storyline or end up dropping it. Muhammad Hassan, Jack Swagger, which I've talked endlessly. Anytime I talk about political storylines, I go back to Jack Swagger losing his push because Sean Hannity, or was it Sean Hannity? Was it Bill O'Reilly? It was somebody on Fox News had a problem with the Tea Party Jack Swagger, and it ended up getting dropped. And of course, the liberal media had a huge problem with Muhammad Hassan, and Glad had a problem with Gold Dust. And it's every time, man, every single goddamn time. Now, this storyline is likely going to garner a lot of attention. It already upset some people. Bixenspan isn't the only one. He's just like my favorite punching bag. But there are other wrestling journalists who have essentially jumped to the same conclusion. They maybe not have, maybe their brains didn't melt and ooze through their nose the same way as Bixenspans did. But a lot of them are going to talk about this in that way. It's Antifa, Black Lives Matter attacking SmackDown, attacking Raw. And you know what? Drag it out. If that's going to be the case, look, man, I'm always about the political storylines. If you're going to roll that stuff in there, roll it in there. WWE does it all the time. They do it literally all the time. I've talked about a couple of ideas of things that they've done already. I'm all for it. Bring the real world into the wrestling world sometimes. Sometimes it makes sense to do that. Sometimes, if you have a good vehicle for a guy, it can work. And WWE did say they wanted to push new stars and younger stars or whatever. And maybe this is the opportunity for a younger star to get over. And young people tend to be, absorbed in this Black Lives Matter bullshit. So maybe that's sort of a way of getting attention. And MLW is doing a similar thing. They have Injustice with like Myron Reed, Coco something. Is his name Coco? Coco? I don't know what his name is. And the white kid Jordan Oliver, who he's like hot all over the internet because he does like those super choreographed jumpity jump gymnastic spots. But Major League Wrestling does a sort of Black Lives Matter type of social justice gimmick, and nobody says anything, and they're heels, and nobody cares. That's because they only care when WWE does it. So it's a bizarre situation. But let me know what you guys think. Again, this is an interactive channel. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later.